Okay, I don't know why, but the video decided to stop in the middle there. So I'll just start again from the third question. And this was a tree diagram. So Ger flips a coin 3 times, and each time he can get a heads or a tails. The diagram below shows how he can get each of the 8 different outcomes. So we've done 3 diagrams. Let's fill in the missing parts of this tree diagram. So let's fill in these outcomes here. For the third flip, he could have gotten a heads or tails. For the second flip here, he could have gotten a heads or tails. This could have been heads or tails. This could have been heads or tails. So hopefully that didn't cause any problems. And then we're listing the outcomes. Okay, so this one was heads, heads, heads. This one is heads, heads, tails. This one's filled in. This one, heads, tails, tails. This one, tails, heads, heads, filled in. Tails, heads, tails. This one, tails, tails, heads. And the final one, tails, tails, tails. So we did a number of those as part of your notes and your homework, and I'm hopeful that it didn't cause problems. The last step here was a little bit more complicated though. Rather than doing the probability of each one, they've asked us how many heads. So there's 3 heads here, 2 here, 2 here, 1, 2, 1, 1, and 0. And I am going to write down the probability of each of these outcomes next to them. There's 8 of them in total, and they are all equally likely. So each of these has a probability of 1/8. Okay, so that's useful for me for when they ask follow-on questions. And there were some follow-on questions. They said, each outcome is equally likely. So fill in the table to show the probability that Ger gets each of those number of heads. So the probability that Ger gets 0 heads, we have it here, the probability of 0 heads is 1/8. Okay, there's only one outcome that gave me 0 heads. So 1/8. The probability of getting 1 head. Well, let's look through our table. We've got this one, 1/8, plus this one, 1/8, plus this one, 1/8. So there was 3 different outcomes that gave me 1 head, and I get 3/8 here. The probability of getting 2 heads then, 1, 2, 3 different outcomes that gave me 2 heads, and they're each an 1/8 as well, giving me 3/8. And there was only one outcome that gave me 3 heads, so that's 1/8 as well. Now, Fidelma flips a coin 8 times. Each time she can get heads or tails. Now, we're not even going to do a tree diagram for this, but they asked us, how many of those outcomes will have exactly no heads? Well, if it has no heads, then each of the 8 outcomes, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, was a tails. So we did tails 8 times. And this there's only one outcome that would come out like that. There's only one outcome like that. Work out the number of outcomes that have exactly 1 head. Okay, a little bit complicated now. So I could have had a heads in the first position and the rest of them tails, or heads in any of the other positions. And you can write them all down to figure it out, but I hope that you can see that I'll just move the heads into each of the other positions, and there's a total because she flipped the coin 8 times, so there are 8 outcomes with 1 head. And work out the total number of outcomes when she flips the coin 8 times. 2 for the first flip, 2 for the second flip, and so on. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is 2 to the power of 8, we'll just do it in your calculator in one go. 2 to the power of 8 gives me 256. So we definitely would not be expected to write them all down. So that's by the fundamental principle of counting. There are 2 outcomes for each time we flip the coin. 2 outcomes for each flip. Okay, and that was the final solution. So there was definitely some tricky parts to that. We had done all the maths behind it, but the way the questions are phrased can be unpredictable. And we really have to try to write down the knowledge that you have, and I'll try and get the the corrections of your test to you guys as soon as possible. But in the meantime, please do let me know if you have any questions or something that you don't understand, even after watching the video, of why the answers are that way. Okay, thank you very much.